The rain had stopped just moments ago, leaving the world outside painted in silver reflections and city lights. Cars rushed by, splashing puddles across the sidewalk. The street in front of the prestigious Maple Ridge Academy buzzed with life as parents arrived in polished sedans, umbrellas blooming like flowers in the drizzle. Among them stood Elena Foster, a woman everyone recognized, the youngest female CEO of a major tech company in the city. Her tailored coat hugged her frame, her expression calm, but her eyes told a different story, the kind that only mothers of special children carry. Beside her stood two small boys, twins, about 9 years old. They were dressed neatly in navy blue school uniforms, their blonde hair slightly damp, their backpacks perfectly zipped. Yet, as cars passed, and children laughed, no one spoke to them. No other child waved. No parents smiled their way. The twins watched the others with quiet curiosity, their fingers fidgeting in subtle movements, a silent conversation between them that no one else seemed to understand. They were deaf, and in a world full of noise, they existed in stillness. Elena's heart ached every morning at that gate. She had built an empire with her intelligence and perseverance, but no amount of success could make people see her sons as normal. Teachers were polite, other parents avoided eye contact, and children whispered, "They're the weird ones." It was a wound that never healed, no matter how many times she reminded herself that her boys were perfect just the way they were. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and that small acts of compassion can change the world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name Sparkles. That morning, as Elena stood waiting for the school bus, she noticed something different down the street. The low rumble of engines broke through the morning air, 5 motorcycles turning the corner. Their leather jackets glistened with rain, and their boots splashed through the shallow puddles. The people nearby instinctively stepped aside. It was the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, a group that many in town judged by their appearance. Long beards, tattoos, heavy boots, people whispered rumors. Elena glanced at them briefly, not out of fear, but habit. She was used to judgment. The bikers parked near the cafe across from the school. They were there almost every Thursday morning, grabbing coffee before heading out for charity work at a veterans center. Today, as they leaned against their bikes, chatting and laughing, one of them, a tall man in his 40s named Dean, noticed the twins standing silently among the crowd of noisy children. He watched as other kids ignored them, as one boy turned away mid-wave when he realized the twins didn't respond. Something about that sight hit him hard, like a quiet punch to the chest. Dean had a son once. He remembered the way the boy smiled before the accident, before silence took over his world. The memory of the hospital, the machines, the endless quiet still haunted him. He had lost his child years ago, but the ache never left. And now, seeing those two boys standing alone while the world kept moving, he felt that ache stir again, not in grief, but in recognition. He nudged one of his friends, a younger biker named Logan, and nodded toward the twins. Logan followed his gaze and frowned. Without saying a word, the two men started walking across the street. The sound of their boots echoed against the wet pavement, turning heads as they approached. Parents stared. A teacher even stepped forward, uncertain. Elena's protective instinct kicked in. She moved slightly in front of her sons, her heart tightening. But then Dean smiled, not a smirk, not the kind that demanded space, but a genuine, warm, disarming smile. He bent down a little so he was on the boy's level. The twins looked up, startled but curious. And then, to everyone's surprise, Dean lifted his hands and began to sign. "Hello." The boys blinked, and then their eyes lit up. Pure joy, unfiltered, radiant, real. One of them signed back, "You know sign?" Dean nodded, his movements slow but fluent. Logan joined in, signing clumsily, and the boys laughed silently, their shoulders shaking with delight. The laughter, even without sound, filled the air around them. Elena stood frozen. She hadn't expected this. No one ever talked to her sons this way, not here, not outside the quiet comfort of home. The other bikers watched from across the street, smiling, their tough exteriors softening. The crowd nearby was silent now, watching this unlikely scene unfold. Two rugged men, kneeling in puddles, communicating with two children through the graceful dance of hands and smiles. And for the first time that year, the twins were seen. Elena felt tears press behind her eyes. The moment was too beautiful, too simple. She remembered all the nights she stayed awake teaching her boys sign language, promising them that someday, someone would understand them without judgment. That promise was finally, unexpectedly, being kept not by teachers, not by friends, but by strangers in leather jackets. As days passed, the bikers began showing up more often. Sometimes, they brought small sketch pads for the twins to draw on while waiting for the bus. Sometimes, they rode by and waved. One afternoon, Dean fixed a broken bike chain for one of the boys, showing him how the gears worked. Elena often stood quietly, just watching, her heart learning to hope again. But kindness, as it often does, drew whispers. Some parents complained to the school. Those bikers shouldn't be hanging around here. It's not a good look for the academy. Elena heard it all. The old fear returned, the fear of being judged, of being different. But this time, she didn't stay silent. At the next parent meeting, she stood up. Her voice, calm but unwavering, filled the room. She spoke about how kindness doesn't wear a uniform, how empathy isn't measured by status or wealth. She told them what those men had done for her children, how they gave them something priceless, belonging. When she finished, the room was quiet. Not everyone agreed, but for once, no one dismissed her. A week later, something unexpected happened. The school invited the Iron Wolves to host a Kindness Awareness Day. Dean hesitated at first, they weren't used to being invited anywhere formal. But when the twins signed, "Please come," he couldn't say no. That day, the bikers arrived not with noise, but with purpose. They parked neatly outside, walked into the auditorium, and shared stories about life, loss, compassion, and respect. Dean even taught a few signs to the children, laughing as they stumbled through the gestures. And when the twins came on stage to help him teach the class how to sign friend, every parent and teacher stood in applause. From that day, things began to shift. The twins started getting birthday invitations. Children waved to them in the halls. Teachers made an effort to learn sign language basics. The world didn't become perfect, but it became softer. And every Thursday morning, when the deep growl of motorcycles echoed down the street, the twins would run forward, hands flying in happy signs, "Good morning." Elena often stood by the gate, watching it all unfold, her sons laughing, signing, being embraced by a world that once ignored them. And she knew something had changed forever, not just for her children, but for everyone who witnessed what compassion truly looked like. Months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Elena walked over to the cafe where the bikers always met. She thanked them again, her voice breaking slightly as she said, "You didn't just say hello to my sons. You reminded them and me that kindness still exists." Dean smiled softly, lifting his coffee cup in a quiet salute. "Sometimes," he said, "you don't need words to change someone's life." And as the bikes roared away that morning, sunlight spilling across the wet streets, Elena felt something new bloom in her chest, peace. The kind that only comes when love conquers silence. Sparkling heart, if this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to channel name. Leave a comment below, tell us what kindness means to you. Sparkling heart. Backhand index pointing right. Special request, comment, kindness speaks louder if you believe that one simple gesture can change someone's entire world.